Hello everyone. In this tutorial, we will see how to update session attributes. Like in tutorial 5, we studied how to create a session and how to add one attribute in it. But in this tutorial, we will see how we can get that session attribute and update its value if that session attribute is already existed. So let's quickly recap servlets. So servlets are modules that extend request response oriented servers, such as Java enabled web servers, right? Servlets have no GUI, no graphical user interface. That's why we use Java server pages to work as GUI for servlets. It runs inside a Java virtual machine on a server host. So what is HTTP session? And this HTTP session basically is provided by servlet class, and yeah, it provides a way to identify a user across more than one page request or visit to a website and to store information about that user. So just like shopping cart, if we want to store information of shopping cart of a particular user, then we will use this sort of thing, sessions. The session persists for a specified time period. We can specify it could be for 30 minutes, it could be more than that, and across more than one connection or page request from the user. Usually, I think you have noticed that when you would be using some banking application, their session time is very small. So if you are not using their application, it would be like they will log out you in 2 minutes or 1 minute time. So this is a picture of sessions. So sessions are storing at the server side. So you can see uh, sessions object are at the server side. So in the previous tutorial, we saw how to create a session. So what are the steps of using sessions in Java? Step 1, get HTTP session. Then step 2 would be we have to assign some key value attribute to the session, like quantity is a key and value would be 20 or 10 or 5, right? And then we have to use this session in JSP or anywhere else. Okay. So how to get HTTP session in Java? Code is very simple. We have to write this line: HTTP session is equals to request dot get session true. And how to assign value? Session dot set attribute. Then we have to provide a key name of attribute, which is their score, and then its value 20. It could be any. That 20 would be coming from user form, HTTP form, right? Then use key in JSP thing. We can simply call this session dot get attribute, right? So how to update session attribute? Check HTTP session exists or not. So in the first step, we will check that session was created or it was the first or it is first time you are visiting this website. If session does not exist, then what to do? And if session exists, then you have to definitely get the value of that attribute and then update it. And finally, you have to use that session key or value in JSP. So how to check HTTP session exist or not? Now you have to uh, use same line, but this time you have to put false parameter in it. What does it mean? That it will check that session exist or not, and it will not create a new session if there is a session. right? So you can check simply with null value if session is equals to null. If it's true, what does it mean? That session does not exist. So it means that you have to create a new session. So request dot session, and then you can simply add new attribute session quantity with its value, right? But if session is already exist, so you can simply get that attribute session quantity from the session, and uh, then you have to update with the value. So now in the second step, you can simply add that 20 into the already value of session quantity. So that 20 again in this example could be from user input form, right? And then simply you can use this session value in JSP, right? With this statement. Okay, now we can go to Netbeans and try that code.
In Netbeans, we will create a new project named as session attribute updation. So by default, index.html is there, so we can call it as shopping mart or something. Shopping, here you can do shopping. Here we will simply add quantity. So I will create a simply one form, and this form will contain one input type text. So we can enter quantity of any product. So I'm assuming we can add only the quantity of one product. So type text name quantity. Then for submit button, input type submit, value would be submit. So action, here I have to mention the servlet name, which would be new servlet, and I think that's fine. For index.html, we can create new servlet. So name is fine. We will add its information to web.xml, finish, and so first step was to update like thing is that like we have to check that this session exists or not. So I will write http session is equals to request dot get session. Here I will pass parameter false. So because no new session would be created if there is already one session exists. Okay, so this false will do, but we have to check that session exists or not. So if this session is equals to null, so if this session is null, Then simply I have to create a session, request a new session. Then simply I will add one session attribute dot set attribute, and name could be, let's suppose, session quantity. But obviously I have to get quantity from this HTML form, right? So I have to get quantity int quantity is equals to request dot get parameter. And I have to parse this to integer dot parse int. So now I will get that quantity which would be coming from here, right? And then I will simply converting its data type to integer. And if this session is new, first time we are creating, then simply I will put this quantity here. But if session is not new, so the first step would be that, like, we will get session quantity, right? It would be session dot get attribute. So this would be same as this one. And then simply I will add, or I will update previous session quantity value, which was this, with the new one, right? Add it. And then I have to forward my request to JSP page so that I can check um, that how this session thing is working. Then request dot get request dispatcher. File name would be, let's say, card.jsp. We will create this file dot forward. That's fine. So we have to create a new JSP file named as card finish, and we would be simply printing you have added session dot get attribute session quantity. This variable name should be same as this one, right? And so you have added products. Or if we want more to add, then we can simply put a link to go back to the index.html file, ask, add more, want to add more. Okay, now we can run our application. So add quantity, let's suppose 10. This is first time I am adding. So you have added 10 products, right? So want to add more. Let's suppose in 10, I can add 5 more. So now total products are 15.